We are aware that quite a number of parts of the country had, as we speak, not yet been fully connected to reliable and stable internet. As a government, therefore, we have embarked on an ambitious program of rolling out 100,000 kilometers of fiber optic cable to ensure that those parts of the country that hitherto had not been connected get access to reliable and stable internet. Over the past 1 year, we have rolled out about 10,000 kilometers. We have now changed the model. As opposed to digging down the ground to lay out fiber, we have re-engineered our model through a partnership between our ministry and the Kenya Power and Lighting Company, where we are now going to leverage on the existing infrastructure of the Kenya Power and Lighting Company to roll out the fiber. If we go that route, which is now work in progress, it is our estimation that as opposed to the 5 years within which we had envisaged to roll out 100,000 kilometers of the fiber, we will now be able to roll out the 100,000 kilometers of fiber within the next 2 years. Eventually, the net effect of this is that each and every location or station where there is power connectivity, we will be able to have in equal measure fiber connectivity. If there is last mile connectivity of electricity, therefore, we equally will be able to have last mile connectivity of fiber in Kenya up to the individual household. In the same vein, we have embarked on the process of rolling out 25,000 Wi-Fi hotspots. Our target in the initial stages is the markets, the bus terminal where our youth are domiciled, and the markets because that is where our mothers and sisters who are involved in itinerary trade are domiciled. We want to leverage on technology, good people, to change our markets into digital marketplaces, because in the world of today with technology, we no longer need to have a physical interface between the buyer of a commodity and the consumer of a commodity. We want to leverage on technology for purposes of e-commerce so that we can have virtual transactions within our itinerary trade. And to augment these efforts, recently we have come up with an e-commerce strategy and bill, which we are now processing. In equal measure, we have come up with a national addressing system policy and bill on the basis of which our e-commerce initiatives can be anchored. So we are very clear in our mind that e-commerce will revolutionize the way we undertake our trade activities in this country. The other major program we have embarked on is digital skilling. We are aware that as we roll out the digital infrastructure, there has to be a corresponding or commensurate level of digital skilling among the Kenyan population. And in this regard, we have started by digital skilling for the youth. As we speak, we have deployed devices to a total of 116 Tibet institutions where we are now undertaking digital skilling for the youth, but in equal measure also, we are connecting the youth to global technological companies for purposes of digital jobs. That is the frontier that we have at our disposal to sort out the unemployment problem that we have in this country. The digital space. There are enormous opportunities available in the digital space for our youth. We are going an extra mile through a partnership with our legislature, working together with our members of parliament to go now down to the villages and set up digital hubs. We are going to have a digital hub in each and every ward, the lowest administrative unit in this country. We are going to have a digital hub where we are going to undertake digital skilling for the youth. As government, we are going to facilitate the training. We are going to deploy the devices. We will facilitate internet connectivity. Of course, the starting point is the fiber connectivity, which is work in progress. But eventually, or cumulatively, or ultimately, our objective is to ensure that right there in the villages, we will have youth who are digitally skilled, who are working for global technological companies and are earning in dollars over and above other foreign currencies. That is the only way we can sort out the unemployment problem that we have in this country. Now, the question that we need to ask ourselves, good people, is if we have that level of digital public infrastructure, as government, do we still need to run manual processes in government? And the answer is no. That is why we are pursuing digitalization of all government services on one hand and digitization of all government records on the other. When we came into office, we only had 350 services aboard our eCitizen platform. As we speak today, we have got a whopping 16,862 services on our eCitizen platform. The import of this, good people, is that in the not too distant future now, Kenyans will have no rationale, justification to physically visit government offices to consume government services. This is very much in tandem with what has happened in other jurisdictions. Estonia has done it. We have just listened to it. India has done it. Pakistan has done it. Why should Kenya be an exception? We will facilitate a virtual mechanism of confirming that each and every Kenyan is the person he or she claims to be. And if that happens, again very soon, we should be able to run a paperless government. We should be able to run virtual transactions. And this is the only way as government that we will be able to enhance efficiency and effectiveness of service delivery to the Kenyan public. At the same time, it is the only avenue through which we can seal out all the revenue leakages that we have within government. When we started this program of digitalization, on average, we used to collect about 60 million shillings per day. Today, on a good day, we are collecting up to an equivalent of 1 billion shillings. 1 billion shillings. Just through digitalization alone, the sources of revenue have remained fundamentally the same. We are only changing the approach and ensuring that Kenya Revenue Authority is able to collect the tax at source, where activity is going on. This is how transformational digitalization can be. And if we continue pursuing this in earnest, and of course our intention is to do this, go the full hog and pursue this to a logical conclusion to ensure that all our processes in government are fully digitalized, we will be able, good people, as a country, to collect adequate revenues to service our external debts and have surplus to finance our own domestic recurrent and development expenditure. In equal measure, because we recognize the fact that there is need for universal access or inclusivity within the digital economy, we are aware that a substantial proportion of Kenyans still do not have access to smart-enabled telephones because of issues of affordability. Again, proactively as government, we have partnered with the private sector to embark on local assembly of smart-enabled telephones. Smart-enabled telephones will be available at the disposal of Kenyans at a unit cost of $50. This assembly plant was inaugurated by His Excellency the President on the 30th of October last year. Eventually, as opposed to just local assembly, we will embark on local manufacture of telephones. And then we will go the extra mile and ensure now that we embark on a local manufacture of both computer hardware and computer software. So if you visit Konza today, you'll realize that we have already laid out all the requisite horizontal infrastructure so that we can get the private sector to come in and invest at Konza, which is our own version of the Silicon Savannah. We already have a fully fledged data center there. As we speak, 72 institutions have already stored their data there. Because one of the issues that emerge in the face of rapid digitalization of questions is to what extent is the data that belongs to the public in the hands of government secure? So we must also think of data storage. That is why we are also embarking on establishment and operationalization of adequate data storage facilities. As we speak, within that data storage facility at Konza, 53 government institutions are already storing their data there. 19 institutions from the private sector are already storing their data there. But while still in that space, Kenya is becoming a very viable destination of choice for purposes of establishment of data storage facilities. About 3 weeks ago, I was in Abu Dhabi to sign a contract or an MOU with the UAE because they want to set up data centers here in Kenya. And Kenya is attractive because of renewable energy. Renewable energy. We have got renewable energy in Kenya, so it's becoming a very, very attractive destination for data storage facilities. Now, while doing all this, we recognize that our operational environment is extremely dynamic. Changes are taking place at a rate faster than the level of innovation. We are dealing with AI, we are dealing with Internet of Things, machine learning, big data, and so on and so forth. So again, proactively as government, we have gone ahead to set up a sector working group that is going to scan the operational environment to come up with what we need to do by way of recommendation as government so that we are ahead of change in the face of these emerging technologies. Within the next 1 week, we shall have gotten that report, but we have also gone ahead to review some of our laws, like the KICA laws, so that we become more user-friendly to the private sector. One of the major changes we have made within our laws is to remove the 30% local content requirement for investment by private sector companies or international companies who want to invest here in Kenya. We no longer need to force those companies to get local ownership. We have scrapped that 30% so that we become more user-friendly to the private sector. So what I'm saying, good people, is that as we do the digitalization, as we deploy the digital public infrastructure, do the digital skilling, we need also to look at the policies, laws, and regulations so that our digital transformation agenda is anchored on a sound foundation. And in this regard, again, we are proactive as government to ensure that we review the laws, policies, and regulations. Of course, while also benchmarking with global best practices, but customizing also in equal measure to meet our own peculiar situation. Issues to do with cybersecurity, yes, questions have always been raised around that. Do we stop digitalization because of cyber insecurity? The answer is no. All that we need to do is to ensure that as we undertake digitalization, we must also build a robust risk mitigation framework around our digital public infrastructure. And that is what we are doing. And as a country, we are appreciating that there are other jurisdictions who are perhaps more advanced in this regard. That's why recently, again, we have entered into a partnership with Israel in this space of cyber insecurity, just to ensure that our data remains secure. We are also enhancing or strengthening our laws and regulations. We have already established and operationalized the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner to make sure that any data that comes into the hands of government remains private and secure to the largest extent possible. But while doing all this, we need also to recognize that in this digital space, we cannot operate in isolation as a country, because we don't operate in a vacuum. We operate within a wider global digital market. That is why discussions like what we are doing here today in this conference is, in my view, imperative, because we need to move together as an East African region, come up with policies, laws, and regulations which speak to each other, look at areas where we can have synergy so that we work together, enjoy economies of scale, have a better bargaining chip in the global digital marketplace. So in conclusion, good people, this conference could not have come at a better time, and I look forward to the deliberations from and output from this conference, going a step forward in informing some of the major interventions that we are going to introduce as government.